What's up, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How is everybody feeling today? Thank you, everybody, for coming out, showing up, showing out every single week live, man. I appreciate you guys so much. And if you're brand new here, smack the like button, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you guys. And as you guys can see, we are down one amigo. So it's just going to be the three amigos this week. Got Fuzzy, got Centurion with me, but we hanging out, man. We gonna keep this thing going. We gonna keep this thing moving. We do greatly appreciate you guys continue support every single week. Look at this, man. So you guys know how hard we've been grinding on the show, the direction that we're trying to go. So the more you guys retweet, the more you guys share the link on the videos, the more you guys hit the like button, the more visibility that does give the podcast. So if you guys truly enjoy the show, you guys want to see us grow, do bigger and better things, please go do all of those things because every single one of those things greatly helps the show. But we're going to go ahead and get started here. Let me introduce my two right-hand men, my left and my right. We're going to start with you, Centurion. But before you get started, shout out to Stag, his family. I know you're watching right now, Stag. Shout out to you, brother. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you on next week. I'm sure we will. And if not, we're going to work things out. But it's all good. So, Stag, man, appreciate you and your family, brother. Hope you guys having a great evening. But Centurion, what's going on with you, brother, this week? How you been?
I'm doing good, man. How both you guys doing?
Fantastic, brother.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a great week. Looking forward to today's show. Just kicking it with the homies and talking about games.
All right, let's get it, man. Let's get it. We got a lot to unpack this week. It actually was a sneaky busy week. Like it was low key sneaky. I didn't really have to search too hard. Some weeks are dry. I have to really search for things to talk about that make sense on the show. But this week it wasn't too hard. I pretty much had all the topics by like the first 2 or 3 days of the week. So it's pretty good week. So we got a lot to unpack. Fuzzy, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, what's going on with you, brother?
Not too much. Just enjoying the all the the beta bleeding edge and getting back into the division, and man, it's a lot to talk about today. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it, man. We don't got a lot to say, man. You just heard it with Fuzz, man. Mr. Smooth Operator over there. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in, man. So once again, guys, if it's your first time here, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. Appreciate you guys. Retweet, share that link on Twitter as it's up already. Make sure we pack this thing out today, man. And once again, all the questions that we talk about here on the panel are also for you guys today in the chat. So let us know how you guys feel about the things that we talk about. That way we can interact back and forth with you guys as the show goes on. So let's go ahead and dive right the fuck in. So you know how we start the show? Poll of the week. And if you're a new here, I put the poll of the week up every single Monday, and we talk about it on the show here every single Saturday. So this week's poll of the week, shout out to everybody who voted and participated in the poll. Once again, follow me on Twitter. That information is all down in the description below if you want to keep up with that. That's where you'll be able to find it on Monday mornings. But anyway, this week's poll of the week was, what is the GOAT fighting game franchise is why? And this was a bit controversial. Now, I did miss some options, okay? I'm sorry. I know that was like the first 3 or 4 people tweeted out, like, dude, you missed so-and-so game or so-and-so fighter. I'm like, I know I couldn't catch everything. But the options were Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, and Capcom versus Marvel. So this is actually closer than I thought. I honestly thought it would be the other way around, but Mortal Kombat looks like it pulled it out 46%. Street Fighter barely narrowed out Killer Instinct to 23%, Killer Instinct 22%, Capcom versus Marvel at 8%. So let's start with you. Fuzz. What was your option? Why did you pick it? I know I missed a bunch, man. I know I missed a couple ones.
Yeah.
Some people hit me in the DMs like, how dare you miss this game or that game? But either way, what was your option, man? Why'd you pick it?
Well, I went with Street Fighter primarily because that's where it kind of all started for me. I mean, I won't say they were the originator. I mean, there was Karate Champ and Kung Fu Fighter and a few other ones that came before it, but that was the go-to arcade game, especially after Street Fighter 2. And ever since then, it's been nothing but, adding more characters, adding more, backgrounds or more areas to fight and things like that. The only thing I didn't like about Street Fighter as a series is just that they make it where, okay, you got Street Fighter 2, and then you'll have Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then you'll have Street Fighter 2 Arcade, and Street Fighter Arcade Turbo, or Super Arcade Turbo. It's like, come on, I'm only buying this game once. And if you're going to make it so the next 8 characters are only in turbo or arcade, it's like I've been a sucker most of the time, just constantly buying those re-editive
Hmm.
versions. But Street Fighter V is about the only one where I think I waited until they had the first complete season done and a few extra fighters, and then I bought that as like a combo year end deal or whatever on PSN. But now that they got arcade or super turbo arcade, whatever it's called now, I'll just wait until that thing is in the $9 bin or whatever.
Yeah.
But Street Fighter is where it's at for me. Dragon Ball Fighters, pretty good game. Tekken, I know a lot of people,
Yeah, a lot of people
especially
said
with that
Tekken.
being in Game Pass and
Yeah, a lot of
stuff.
people said Tekken too that I missed. So excuse me, guys. I know I missed Tekken. I thought I put a disclaimer on the actual poll, but I guess I didn't. But either way, go ahead, Fuzz.
No, but Street Fighter, I mean, about the only other ones that I would say can outdo Street Fighter, at least in my opinion, is some of the Neo Geo games, but they have so many different ones where all of those games are similar, but it's like a different focus on character or different, genre type of
Yeah,
thing as far as the look. But
yeah.
Street Fighter is, game of the whole genre for me as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. And I'm actually not surprised Mortal Kombat won just because I feel like Mortal Kombat has been better recently as opposed to Street Fighter. Street Fighter, we haven't gotten one really since 5, and that one had a rough start. It was pretty mediocre off the jump. They had a lot of
Yeah.
issues as far as characters. I think they only started with like 6 or 7 characters to begin with, and they released each of them kind of like Killer Instinct did, in a
Mhm.
way, but it didn't go over as smooth as they thought it would be. And on top of it, should have been a multi-plat, but that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, my answer, in all honesty, I would have picked Killer Instinct only because Killer Instinct for me was that aha light bulb moment as far as fighters for me. Because I grew up playing, Mortal Kombat at the ice cream shop across the street from my junior high school, Street Fighter as well, like you said, Capcom and SNK games. But Killer Instinct was the first game. Man, when I first heard that Ultra, like man, it was crazy. So it changed the way fighters look for me, the combo system and the ridiculously long combos, and it just for me it was one of the first games to do something a little bit different in the fighter genre. So that's what I would have picked. With Centurion, just go ahead and throw it over to you, man. Which option did you pick and why, brother?
Oh man, I picked Mortal Kombat, and it's not just because of the whole popularity thing. That was the fighting game I grew up playing with all my friends, against all my friends. I just gravitated towards it more than the others, and I mean, I anything Mortal Kombat growing up, I couldn't get enough of. Television shows, movies, no matter how cheesy it got, it was still entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I mean, like, geez, freaking! I remember when this new Mortal Kombat came out. It was all anybody could talk about, and
Yeah.
I just, I don't know. I hate games that I'm a story based kind of guy, so I love the fact that Mortal Kombat actually has a deep story behind it. I know some of these video fighting games have some story,
Yeah.
but I feel like the Mortal Kombat one was just way more immersive for me.
Got it. Yeah, and I would say as far as story goes, you're right. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, they do set themselves apart. They do have a universe that you can tie the fighting game to. A lot of fighters don't have that. Like even as good as Killer Instinct is, it doesn't really have a closely related story that people can grasp onto. It's not as notable. I mean, you got like you said. I mean, they at one point wasn't there like a RPG Mortal Kombat, which what was that?
Um,
The Sub Zero game.
Yeah.
It was
dude,
like
Well,
there
they,
was.
they
been
well they've
so
kind of
much
made this
Mortal
new
Kombat
one
stuff.
like with the whole Injustice 2 type of deal too, where it's kind of an RPG, although it's not as much an RPG if you do the arcade version, but if you start leveling up characters, which man, that's a grind to
Yeah.
level up multiple characters. But some of the skins and things will have additional abilities, so that aspect is definitely a welcome change over the years in comparison to like the earlier days. But it's always good to do a fatality or freeze them and then break them into a million pieces or set
Yeah.
them on fire with lightning strikes and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Okay, well, I agree. I mean, I agree with the poll to poll. I mean, I think really the reason being was because Mortal Kombat has been really good recently, whereas Street
Mhm.
Fighter has not. I mean, even as great as Killer Instinct was, it's not necessarily new. We got Killer Instinct right at the beginning of the generation, so it's not like a brand new game. Mortal Kombat's increasingly gotten better and better as they've come out with them. So kudos to Mortal Kombat, man. I was a Sega kid growing up, so I love the fact that we got the actual red blood. You Nintendo
Yeah.
kids got the green shit. You guys got the slime. Y'all didn't get the real blood. You remember that Fuzz where they
Oh
or the
yeah.
Nintendo had the green, the green blood instead of the red?
Yeah,
Crazy.
Nintendo was censored. It was like,
Yeah.
oh no, you can't show fatalities. No.
So that's a one up for us Sega kids out there in the world. So shout out to
Yeah.
us Sega kids. But now that's a great way to start the show, man. Once again, as you file in, guys, hit the like button, hit the notification button. That way you guys will be aware every time we start the show, every time you get videos in between time. Appreciate you guys'
I'm
continued
scared to
support.
go near her.
I'm gonna do some quick shout outs here. Shout out to Beezy McNeasy. Shout out to Matt Burns, Michael Monkey Punch. Shout out to Sean Sue. Everybody watching Crazy Greek. If you're not in the chat right now, jump your ass in the chat. Say hello to everybody, man. Let's have some fun, man. Once again, retweet and share that link on Twitter. Let everybody know, man, where the livest podcast is at on Saturday, right here at the Shop Podcast, man. So retweet that thing. I want to see them the mentions blowing up, man. But I greatly appreciate you guys every single week showing up and showing out. So let's move on to the next topic. So this is where we start to get into the nitty gritty, man. So this is actually something that actually I think it was either I don't know if this was you, Fuzz, or if it was Stag, but I got one of these topics from one of you two. So it was essentially what's a great game you have yet to finish and why. I know we talk a lot about as gamers our backlog, and we've done it quite a bit on this show, and we can all relate to that. No matter what platform you play on, whether it be PC, console, Xbox, Nintendo, whatever the case may be, we all have a fucking crazy backlog of games that we have not finished. And more so times, you find that these games are actually really, really good games that we've never gotten around to finish. So, what's one game that was a fantastic game that when you got off, you was like, I'm definitely coming back to finish this shit that you still have not gone back and played yet. So, we're going to start with you, Centurion, on this one. We'll do it a little different today, man.
I get to go first.
Yeah, you going first. Bring that ass
Oh
around here.
man, deer in headlights. A great game that I need to go back and play. I need to finish the DLC for Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Okay.
I'm already, but dude, the main quest in that game is just not even the main quest, just beating the main game itself in its entirety. That right there was a marathon, and after that, it was like I'm taking a break and I'm just waiting for that break to end. But there's also tons of games in my backlog that I've started playing and tell myself, I'm going to come back to you. You're a good game. I'm going to come back, but I'm going to keep playing my MMO because that's all I can seem to play.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the game in my head right now that I want to go back to is try to get back into Assassin's Creed
to,
Odyssey.
to be fair, if you have not played it, that's a extremely large fucking game. There's a lot to do. There's so much content. It reminds me of The Witcher in a way that the DLC is almost as big as some other games, like entirety, like entire games. So I'll give you a pass for that one. We not gonna hold you for that one, Centurion, because that's a lot of fucking work. I don't know what was the hours on that game. I know Fuzz, you played through it. A shout out to Zarker. That was actually Zarker's game of the year it came out. I know he played through that
Yeah.
shit front and back. So what was the completion time as far as hours? You guys
Ugh.
remember?
I know I'm somewhere 90 plus hours in it, and I haven't touched the last DLC, like the Underwater City or Atlantis or whatever. And I know that there's like multiple parts to that. Um, Origins, I 100%, including all the DLC. I'm probably only about 70 or 80% through, if
I
that.
100%ed Origins. I'm looking up my stats right now on Odyssey. I'm kind of scared to see them.
Same here, because I know last
Time
time.
played is 15 days, 4 hours, and 14 minutes.
Jesus Christ. Fucking ton of time. All right, so let me know, chat. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you too. I know we were talking here. So they saying it sounds a little echoey. So let me know, chat, if it still sounds that way. Once again, I'm not entirely sure if something is adjusting. I don't know if it's Google. I don't know what's going on. It could be
I think
Google.
Lamb is just making himself sound cool,
No,
and
I don't. I don't.
so
I'm not the one with the soundboard. Shout out to
you say Fuzzy has the voice, so you
shout,
try to like undermine that.
shout out to Stag. He the one that got the soundboard over there. I'm not able to change people's voices over here. But let us know if they still sound that way. Or just yes, let us know. But either way, let's go ahead and keep the show going. I know we were talking about a game. I think it was on you, Fuzz. I think it was up.
Yeah.
You were up to bat, brother.
Well, Odyssey is on there, but I was the main one that comes to mind that I keep on looking at, and it's like I should just click it and play it, continue playing it. It's going to be Tomb Raider, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Oh,
I 100%ed the other one. Wait, let me look at this real quick. Like for Rise of the Tomb Raider, 100% of that, all the DLC. I forget how long I put into that, but I was so proud of myself. I 100% of that game, and then Shadow of the Tomb Raider was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play through it, and I forget what came out like a month after I got really into it, and it was probably Division, and then I was like, I'll come back to it after when I walk away from the Division, but then Jedi of Fallen Order came out, and a couple other games in between that, so it's like I definitely need to. Uh, at least come back to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It's just one of those games that I enjoy. I enjoy the scenery. Some of it, some of the storyline, it's all right. But I like the overall aspect of like the Tomb Raider games in general. It's just haven't really found time or made the time to come back to that one.
Hmm.
And I think I made matters worse because I just started up. Well, two games. I started up Wolfenstein, the Youngbloods one or whatever, the one on Game Pass,
Hmm.
and then I also started up Metro finally because they have their second DLC is being released. So I figured I better get through the story so I don't just have this DLC and game sitting there
Yeah.
untouched. But
Well, good luck
yeah,
with that, brother, because we all suffer from the same goddamn problem for sure. And it's something that's getting worse and worse as these generations go on. That's one thing that we do not consider as we beg and we ask for these games, man. We look up halfway through the generation, and I'm sure we can all go back, and there's probably not enough hands and feet to count how many games that we've either A, had to pass on because we didn't get through a particular game, or games we've bought thinking that, oh, we're definitely going to play this game and still have not gotten around to it, or even like you said, halfway gotten through it. So for me, there's a number of games I think. Witcher obviously would be the main one. Yeah, that's a, and it's funny. This is another game that I don't know why I haven't finished it, but it was so amazing when I played it. The original, the Doom, or the, well, not obviously not Eternal, but the first Doom game that came out this generation. Still haven't beaten it. Still haven't. I played through it. I binged through like half of it, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna play this. Give me like another weekend, and I never got back to it. My son still plays it every now and then. He still plays the multiplayer, which is kind of fun to watch. It just reminds me of like that Unreal Championship type shit where it's just super fast and people is blowing up and blood and guts and shit everywhere. But that's a game I have not gotten back to for
I'm right
whatever
there with
reason.
you on
Yeah, I
that.
don't know
I've
why.
only played half and kind
Yeah,
of put it down.
yeah, and I don't know why it was fucking fantastic. The game was super underrated. It came out, and it got a lot of actual good reviews, but for whatever reason, it didn't really catch like people thought it was going to catch. But it was a great game in my opinion. So that is that particular topic. So let's go ahead and keep things moving, man. We're gonna slow it down a little bit here, and probably gonna get a chance to take some questions at the end of the show because we're gonna have a little bit of time left. So once again, guys, if you do have questions, you might as well go ahead and throw them in the chat right now. Let us know what you guys want to hear. And I do apologize for the audio situation. I'll have to figure that out after the show is over. I didn't want to stop the show and try and figure it out now only because we're kind of in the middle of things. So once again, guys, that's something I'll take a look after the show, and hopefully I can get that fixed. So next week we will not have that echo problem. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I'll look into it for you guys. So let's go ahead and dive in to the next topic. Now, this is something that I wanted to bring up. Now you guys know this is kind of an Xbox centric channel, but we do talk about everything on the show. PlayStation, Nintendo, we give everything a fair share, a fair shake. We call out bullshit when we decide to call bullshit, doesn't matter what platform it's on. So this is something that I have not seen anybody talk about, and we have not gotten any information about this. Now, Sony's first party PS5 launch lineup, or maybe not even first party, just Sony's launch lineup for the PS5. Now, the only reason I'm asking about this is because we've seen what Xbox is bringing to the table. We don't know all of the games that they're bringing to the table, but we see the work these studios are going, and we start to see that they're hiring more developers. We've seen a couple games, one from Rare, a couple from Bleeding Edge, obviously, a couple from Ninja Theory. So we've seen these games that are going to be on these new systems coming up, but for whatever reason, we have not seen anything from Sony outside of Godfall. So I just want to bring this to the table. Why have we not heard of anything, and why are we not talking about this? Essentially, are my two questions. We're gonna start with you, Centurion, because once again, I have not seen a single person ask about what is Sony's first party, or not first party, but what is Sony's PS5 launch lineup looking like. So have you thought about that or had that discussion with anybody yet?
I've rolled it around in my head a little bit. It's probably going to be like every launch lineup for every PlayStation console, and this isn't a dig. It's just pure fact that they have little to nothing every time a console comes out. PS3 during the PS3 era, if you saw a game, and was it the PS3 or the PS4 where it was really bad? I think it was the PS3 because of that.
Three, I believe.
I remember, I think it was that.
Bad.
Yeah, the
Except for
PS3.
Multiplex, but 3 was I can't even remember the game I got with the thing.
I remember there was one generation where if you saw a PlayStation game in the store, it was like a unicorn.
Yeah.
But that I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It was just what happened. In case somebody thinks that I'm just being an Xbot or whatever they want to call me. But no, definitely I've rolled it all over in my head a lot, wondering what they're going to give. A lot of people are saying that they're just embracing the end of this generation. They don't want to rush the end of this generation. They want to focus on it. But at the same time, you just can't pretend that next generation isn't going to happen. And I'm going to be up. Xbox has kept them on their feet. Since the redesign of the Xbox One S and the launch of the Xbox One X, and Phil Spencer coming out on stage during that launch saying that we're now going to work on the next generation of consoles, I just think that Xbox has been keeping PlayStation on their feet, and PlayStation has been concentrating so hard on the hardware that maybe that they did kind of overlook a few things when it comes to the software that's going to be available. Hopefully they got some really good games lined up, but I just feel like that's what's always happened with PlayStation is it's slow to start in the generation, but by the end of the generation, it's just one hit after another, and then generation goes to another generation, and you have that cool down period where you don't see as many titles come out of them.
Well, the only reason I'm asking, and the only reason this is even relevant at this particular point, is because Sony's done some very uncharacteristic things in this generation. Look at the silence they've been. No information really regarding what the PS5 launch lineup is going to look like. And the only reason as well as I'm bringing this up is because we've seen the moves Microsoft has made, as well as the pressure, or assumingly the pressure that people have put on them to say, hey, what are going to be the results of all these purchases from these studios? Microsoft has been very forthcoming. I mean, hell, even tweeting out, Initiative already tweeting out a picture of Phil playing some type of idea that they're already working on. So that goes to show you that the ball is rolling in Xbox. That ball's going. I mean, now you could just say, well, Xbox kind of has to do that because they are playing catch up. And like we've said before, Sony doesn't really have to do anything, but based on the moves they've made and just being uncharacteristically quiet, this is one thing I haven't seen anybody bring up and or talk about, because the only game we've seen so far that we know is coming to the PS5 is Godfall. That is it. I mean, people assume all these other games, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, Uncharted, whatever the case may be, God of War, but we have not seen anything outside of Godfall. So to me, I'm not saying it's a red flag or anything like that. We're not doing a boy who cried wolf shit. But all I'm saying is that it is something that's relevant and it is important essentially at this particular point.
Definitely. It's going to set the tone because, who's going to want to fork out $400, $500, $600 for a console that has no games? And definitely, that's what I was getting by. Microsoft has been keeping them on their feet. They've been giving them a lot of pressure where I feel like they've been concentrating too much on hardware, and they've also gotten a little bit complacent in the fact that they are the market leader. Did you see that article that came out that the guy who's running Sony is actually wanting it to become more like Microsoft, where they count active users and not actual hardware sales?
Well, yeah, we saw that. Me and Fuzz were talking about that on Xbox Live today. But
Yeah, see, that's just
but
like this is a totally new PlayStation, and this is one thing that I'm hoping people are prepared for. That this isn't the PlayStation that they're used to. That regime got restructured.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I can agree with that. I mean, I can agree with that to a point. But I mean, at the same time, like I said, I've always gone with the fact that Sony doesn't necessarily need to really make their moves based on what the Xbox is doing. We've seen that they've been able to kind of rest on their laurels and make calculated moves when they've needed to, and it pay off in big ways for them. So I don't really think there's a rush for Sony. It is just uncharacteristic how quiet they've been with no information at all, no shows, no anything. That's what I think. Obviously, is uncharacteristic. Even though we got the new consoles looming up, everybody saying, "Well, they're just kind of they're letting the PS4 kind of do its thing, and they're not really putting any information out there." I get that, but I mean, these new consoles are coming out this year. We're already halfway through February, so all I'm saying is that at some point, there's got to be some kind of movement. But let's go ahead and go over to you, Fuzz. Get your
Mhm.
opinion. Just on Sony's first party launch lineup. I mean, nobody's really talking about it. I haven't seen anybody even ask the question like, what type of games are we going to see coming down the pipeline?
Knack 3. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh well, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, it oh man, it's kind of funny to me. Shout out to Boom with his podcast, and I want to say it's what's his name? I just
Sesh?
had it. Yeah, for the guy that's in Shady that
Oh,
does
so
the
shady.
Chef Empire. Yeah, he made mention like a couple of years ago. Sony made this big thing about they were crouching low and that they'll be ready to pounce when they have something ready to show, and it was going to be in March, and we'll that was 2 years ago, and people are like, oh no, they'll have a show in February, and it's like no. They kind of told us 2 years ago that they were going to do this, so shout out to him for pointing that out. And that whole lineup thing, we got Godfall. That's great. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some crossplay or cross generational stuff, like the Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Two. They'll probably play up backwards compatibility, pretty big because all the PS4 library will be able to carry over. Be nice if PS3, but I doubt they'll go that far back. And then I mean, there could be an Act 3. I didn't care for one. Well, I didn't play one other than the demo and didn't care for it then. Um, I, I, I guess it's safe to assume a Horizon Zero Dawn 2, but I don't think that's going to be a launch title. I think that's going to be something like, after the first
Yeah.
year or something like that.
Yeah.
What I would really like, which I know the Sony Protection Force are going to come out in droves against this, but it's like I really want a Gran Turismo in the essence of a real Gran Turismo. I don't want a prologue or a prelogue or a sport or any of that crap. I want an actual Gran Turismo that has 700 cars from start, not added after everybody complains. I want it to have 60 or 70 tracks from start, not after everybody complains. I don't want it to be only online. I want offline and online and the licenses like before from get go. Don't make it so you put this half ass crap out there and then everybody's like, oh, it's missing this and missing that, and then you go and fix it later. No, either do it right the first time or don't do it or don't release it, and that's what I would like to see. But there's no word on that even. I mean, they're talking about, oh, well, the next Gran Turismo, it's already the current one is already scalable to 8K. Well, that's great. Where's the game? Where's the full game from start? But
Tell
that's
us
what
how
I
you
would
really
like to see.
feel.
But yeah, I don't know. There isn't much talk about the Sony lineup. Everybody was making a big to do about, oh, the X Series X won't have any exclusive titles at launch. Well, we got some cross gen stuff, and that's fine, and it'll have a better version of those compared to the X, the One X. So that, as far as I'm concerned, that's good enough for the meantime. It'd be nice if there's some third party, devs out there to make a couple of games geared towards the next generation console. Which, in all honesty, considering the amount of delays that Dying Light 2 has had, just like they did on the first one, they kind of skipped PS3 and 360. So I could see them skipping, the Xbox One and the PS4 just to focus on a new console, and that'll be something that comes out later. Hopefully, Ubisoft has figured out how to get Watch Dogs wrapped up and have that ready to go. But yeah, there really isn't going to be anything exclusive to PlayStation that's talked about until they'll probably make a bigger hint come March. But they're going to probably do like they always do, rely on third party for like the first year, with the exception of like maybe 3 or 4 games, and then from there, maybe a couple of VR games, since all that stuff's supposed to carry over and go from there. But yeah,
Okay.
more people should be vocal about it, and ask some questions, not just, hey, when's the PS5 going to come out? Well, what's going to be on the PS5 when it comes out? That's the
Yeah.
bigger question.
Yeah, and to me, and it's funny because to me that's something that you don't see. And for whatever reason, people aren't talking about that. Not saying, and we're not trying to drag Sony or PlayStation under the bus. Just kind of curious because we've seen the fact that people have put pressure on Xbox and said, "Look, you guys need this. We need to see the roadmap." Essentially. So, and Xbox has showed the roadmap. Obviously, we don't know every single game coming down the pipeline. There's going to be some surprises. E3 is right around the corner, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of things that we're going to see with Sony as well at some point. But just the fact that Sony hasn't had an event in forever, you haven't really seen much of anything from Sony, that people really aren't asking this question. I'm not saying that I'm worried about the first party because we know it's going to come. Now, you guys are right. If Sony does how it traditionally does, you don't get a whole lot of like first party exclusives right away. Those come year 2, 3. But you do get some games kind of right off the bat. So outside of Godfall, I am kind of curious as to what Sony's going to do. Obviously what the system, is going to be capable of doing, and what kind of games they're going to use to kind of initiate that process and push it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, man. Once again, great start. And everybody listening right now, I do apologize for the audio. We're going to look into another option. I don't know if it's Hangouts. I don't know it's what we're using. I'm not entirely sure, but I do apologize. We're gonna have to do like a test run next week and get that figured out. If I have to switch to a different, streaming, app or something like that, then that's what I'll do. Just we'll figure it out. So I do apologize, you guys listening right now, if it's hard to hear or whatever the case may be. We'll try and get through this, and then next week I'll make sure we'll get it figured out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. And this is something that we talked about last week, but I wanted to talk about this news in a kind of a different light. Now, we recently seen Xcloud, the success of Xcloud, the test they've been running, recently opened up for iOS in limited amounts, obviously. And this has some pretty good success and people talking, really, really good about it. We've seen the partnership with Samsung. So I just really want to talk about the strategic moves that Xbox has made with XCloud to put it in a position where it's almost like shit. We can't really lose with this idea. As long as we get our infrastructure right and make sure everything runs about as good as it can run while still building the marketing around it, we'll be fine. And we already know what XCloud, what the whole deal is, what the focus is. So I think if they can get the infrastructure around, with them getting with these cell phone companies and getting these deals with these cell phones and Android and iOS is huge. So I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit more about that. We'll start with you, Fuzz, on this one because I know we were talking pregame a little bit about it. So what does it say about xCloud? And what does it say just going forward, how confident you think Xbox is about the actual platform?
Well, I think now with them doing the rollout for that, they're I would say they're as confident as they need to be at this point, especially if they're going to make an official launch or announcement come E3. Um, Considering you got guys like Brad Sams and a few others out there showing some of the gameplay footage on iOS and Android, and as far as the single player aspect, things pretty much playing flawlessly, and then some of the multiplayer, yeah, you're going to have some lag or maybe some issues where automatic versus semi-automatic weapon isn't properly functioning, but I think in the grand scheme of things, this is going to be their their big get as far as getting into more regions that may not necessarily want the console or carry the console or get the console at launch, because Sometimes they do like a weird launch cycle where they roll it out, maybe weeks or months later in certain regions. But it's great to see that they're constantly pushing the envelope, so that way this thing will be fully battle tested by the time it's launching. Not to knock Stadia, but it's one of those things where it just seems like that's like an ongoing beta test still, and people are paying for that ongoing beta test. But yeah, it's I'm I'm begrudgingly getting ready to take one of my Xbox Ones, my OG Xbox One, and get it hooked up uh, to the what do you call them program, because I don't want to have my X on there, because right now
The
I
preview
have,
program.
yeah, the preview program, because right now I'm having some issues with, I think I got too many games on my hard drive,
Hmm.
and it's slowing things down. Or every now and then it's like, oh, I'll switch from a game to YouTube, or I'll switch from a game to my Microsoft Rewards, and it's like, oh, you need to start that, or start it in about a minute or so from now, and or do you want to restart your Xbox? I'm like, I don't want to restart my Xbox for anything. I shouldn't have to restart it to go from a game to an app type of thing. But
Hmm.
the preview program, that whole deal, I'm gonna put it at least on one of my other Xboxes in the house and go from there, and finally get to be able to play Xbox on the go on my iPhone. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, I'm 100% down for that. But yeah, as far as the idea goes, and as far as them being able to partner up with these companies, I think it's a great idea. I mean, that's the best way. I mean, you might as well grease the wheels.
Yeah.
That's two biggest Android iPhone. Might as well wrap the if they can adopt the idea. Hell, even their marketing is going to help push the idea. If they're in bed with it, kind of like Samsung. Part of their what I think it was like the S20. I think part of
Mm-hmm.
their marketing is the Xbox marketing as well. So they're pushing the phone as well as pushing the option of having these games available on the phone. So that's kind of a dual purpose there. So I think it's a great idea. It's really simple. It's a no brainer if you're Xbox and trying to get into that mobile space. Get on board with the two biggest cell phone companies on the planet. So I think it's a fucking no brainer. So Centurion, let's go ahead and throw this over to you, man, about the moves they're making. Are you excited about XCloud, and what do you think? Them getting with Samsung, them getting and the cool thing about iOS is that Apple is traditionally really, really, really strict about things like this. They don't, they're extremely strict about how they open up their platform, and allowing xCloud to be previewed on an iOS phone is actually a pretty big deal for Microsoft. So what do you think about that as well?
I think it's great. It shows the future and direction that xCloud is going. They are definitely trying to do everything they can to make it as big a success as possible and not a Google Stadia. Let's face it, Anthem is starting to look more promising than Google Stadia.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Hey, we mentioned Anthem. Has to happen
I
every
know, every
show.
single show at
Remember?
least once.
All
Check
right.
that off the
Anyway,
fucking list this week.
all right. But back to the subject there. xCloud is going to be a great add-on for the Xbox ecosystem. It's going to allow you to at least have access to your game library in a limited capacity compared to what you would have access to on actual hardware. That's why I say it's an add-on. And it's also going to give people who are curious about, like, because you know how many people I have met that would actually find gaming on an Xbox or a PlayStation or even a Nintendo kind of intimidating. By putting it on your phone, you have the ability now to kind of check it out, see if it's something you're into, and hey, you never know, we could be getting new fans of gaming in general, not just Xbox, that were able to play some of these great hardware-based games on their cell phones.
Yeah, and I think that's short-sighted of us gamers, and I think we do that a lot. I really think we do that a lot. I think even I've been guilty of doing that a lot because the funny thing is, and hear me out here, Centurion. As a gamer, you and I and Fuzz, we're a little different. Stag, we're a little different. We're on Twitter. We're in the know. We're on top of the news. We're really close to what we enjoy and love, which is video games. A lot of the casual crowd is not so close. So sometimes we tend to think that like we live in our own bubble. We tend to think that like nobody else is gonna be able to really take advantage of this. Like we tend to think from a small scale is what I'm trying to say. Not outside of the video game realm. Like you said, This is really for people. This is for getting people in the door. This is for presenting the idea of, hey, this is what Xbox has to offer. It's not just video games. It's not just a square plastic box. It's getting people into the ecosystem, and that's exactly what you were talking about, right? Right, Centurion?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it also gives access to the ecosystem in the regions that Xbox isn't sold in. I think I've said it before on this show. Xbox is sold in about half the regions that PlayStation is sold in. So that, of course, PlayStation, that's why you see 2-to-1 sales, because it's sold in almost double the regions. Regardless of popularity, you're going to have an advantage when you're able to outsell your competition just by the regions you're available in.
Yeah.
But that's where Microsoft and Xbox together are wanting to get into the Asian market. And one of the best ways to do that is they're a very mobile centric market. And by putting it on mobile phones, at that point, you don't have an excuse to not check it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, it makes it really easy. I mean, it's and the cool thing about it is that they're not having to go out and buy brand new devices to be able to take advantage of this. This is not an add-on. This is not, hey, go buy a new handheld. This is not, go buy some new chip or anything. These are games that are going to be able to be played on people's phones that they have in their pockets right now. So this is not asking you to go buy a brand new piece of hardware or go make a new investment. This is something that it's an app. Go download the app, check it out. And I don't know how much the app is going to be. I don't know how much you'll have to pay for access, but just it's a cool idea, and that's why I think ultimately, if they do this thing the right way and they get on board with this the right way, it could get them into those markets and absolutely help sell consoles and just bring people into the idea of having Xbox and Xbox Live and getting used to the ecosystem. So I think it's a fantastic idea. So let's go ahead and keep this thing going. Now, what we're going to do now, since we actually have quite a bit of time left, we usually don't go through the questions that fast. If you're not new to the show, you guys know that for sure. We usually kind of slow things down and go through them, but we got plenty of time left to take some cool questions from the chat. So let us know right now. Throw your questions in the chat. We'll go ahead and answer as many as possible on the show today. I will bring up one other question because since I didn't predict us actually having enough time to talk about this, but I do want to talk about the whole idea of user versus sales, and not necessarily users versus sales, but the whole idea that it's always been how many people are playing, how many people are actually been in the ecosystem as opposed to how much plastic we're actually out there selling. And the idea that knowing both companies have always thought this way in regards to the way they look at how the console's going, how well the brand is actually doing. So I wanted to start with you on this one, Fuzz. We kind of talked about this pre-show. So I mean, obviously, it's something some people have said for a very long time. Others have not. Others have always shouted, "Hey, it's all about those nice round sales numbers and this and this and that." But ultimately, if you're a company that's pushing forward on a technology front, on an online front, knowing where your platform is going, it's always been about how many people are actually within my ecosystem. So, once you got that confirmation, and we've seen that article saying, hey, Sony obviously has that same thought pattern, what'd you think of that?
Well, I thought it was funny because a lot of the fans always want to point to the sales numbers, which it's great. I think somebody in the Xbox community had posted a question like, "How many PlayStation 4s have you bought, including like your Pro and stuff like that?" And I bought three this generation. I bought one for myself. I bought a launch PS4, and I'm the only one really buying games on it. And then I bought my sister-in-law one for Christmas because she really wanted it for Destiny or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and got her that as a Christmas gift. And then my wife she wanted a DVD player and a go to for streaming because I guess the TV that we had only had Roku in it, and it was slow because it's I guess it's one of the earlier versions of it, and even after the update, it still loads fairly slow.
Mm-hmm.
So going with a PlayStation at the time as opposed to another Xbox, because she was also into a game called what is it? Don't Starve.
Yeah, I've
So
heard of that.
so since I had already owned it on my PS4 and she had played it, via the PS TV, which that's a whole nother forgotten Sony product, but figured, well, let me just get her a PS4, and that's a her Netflix stream box or Amazon Video stream box right now. So companies are fine with you buying the hardware, but if they're taking a loss on them, they're not making any money if you're not buying any software. So if out of those three PS4s that I bought, if I'm the only one really buying any software and I don't buy anywhere near the amount of software on it that I do my Xbox, they're not making any money off of me. But if they have a constant revenue stream from a subscription, that, well, I won't say it's guaranteed money, but it's as close as you can get to guaranteed money. And once you have their foot in the door, where it's, or your foot in the door, where they're paying a subscription fee, you offer a sale. Yeah, you take a little bit of a hit as far as, oh, you knock 5% or 10% off. Well, you're still making 30 points or 40 points or however many virtual points they set the margins on pricing for a game. They're still coming out ahead. So they rather have it where you subscribe, you buy DLC, you buy the games, even if they're on sale, and they make money because now they don't have to do any physical copies and warehousing and shipping and all that stuff. And that's a bigger profit margin for the companies with less of an investment in it. So I don't know. It's about time they started focusing on, I guess, what really matters from a business standpoint to shareholders
Yeah.
and potential investors and
Yeah.
stuff.
And the funny thing about this is that, I mean, at the end of the day, I always say this: like, none of us are sitting in those meetings. None of us have a direct line to any of those guys. We're not getting emails and faxes about the like you said, the margins and or things like that each month. So a lot of the shit we be talking about is conjecture. But at the end of the day, really, business is business. And it's funny to see that ultimately these companies do think the same way about some things. Now, some companies treat it differently. Some companies, obviously, don't put it out there and or market it if that's the way they're thinking. But it's funny that a lot of these companies do have the same thought process in mind. Users having people, getting people in the door. Because like I've always said, once you're in the door, anything can happen. And that's always what you want as a business. You want people to be in that ecosystem because they can do anything. If they love it, they're gonna stay there. And anything can happen if they stay there. So that's kind of how I look at it. So let's go ahead and throw that same question to you, Centurion, about just the fact that they did come out and say, hey, this is the way we look at it shouldn't be judged based on the amount of piece of plastic that I got at home, but that matters too. I'm not going to diminish that as well because we're going to have some people saying, oh, you're just trying to diminish it. No, it absolutely matters. They absolutely care about that as well. But ultimately, if there's 20 million pieces of plastic, but only 1 million people out there actually playing and buying content, that's a loss. That's a loss. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, going forward, what do you think about just that idea, knowing that these companies think the same way?
Man, I don't know where to start on this whole situation because it's almost like a I told you so, and you don't want to be that guy that just runs around like rubbing it in on people, just being like, I told you that eventually, the other guy was going to follow suit. Um, Definitely, though, man, I'm kind of the same way with Fuzzy. I've bought the exclusives through PlayStation, but I generally do wait for them to go on sale before I actually officially buy them. A lot of times they have to be like I bought God of War day one. But not too many of the PlayStation exclusives am I playing day one just because I know I won't get to them day one because I'm too busy living on my Xbox. The Xbox, in my opinion, I feel like, let's face it, I'm just going to be upfront. On the PlayStation, I don't feel comfortable at all buying stuff. I've had my PlayStation hacked. I've seen horror stories. I've done videos. I know what the PlayStation user agreement is for things like chargebacks and stuff that you're supposed to be able to protect yourself as a consumer. PlayStation has stuff to kind of supersede that in their user agreements. Xbox, though, they make it very convenient. They give you different ways of actually. I just like the ecosystem. I could go on it all day, but Microsoft definitely makes it feel more comfortable to spend money. PlayStation, I've never been a big fan of their store.
Their dashboard's horrible.
No, I know, right? Welcome, Stagger.
Welcome, Sam. Yeah. I wanted to give him a formal introduction, but go ahead.
Right.
I couldn't help myself.
No, I'll definitely say that. And also, here's the thing, man. You know how many times I try to get on my PlayStation and look on the store, and it's like the PlayStation store needs an update. Alrighty, looks like I'm not shopping. I can't count how many times that's happened that the store needs an update. The funny part is the Xbox store updates in the background. You don't even realize it. I've never had Xbox tell me, wait, I need to update the store.
Yeah, I haven't had that issue.
Not the store, but the dashboard for sure.
The dashboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been plenty of times I've left my Xbox on overnight. And I come back to get ready to play in the morning. It's like, you need to update. And I'm like, you motherfucker.
But no, definitely when it comes to what PlayStation is doing, the whole idea that maybe PlayStation might start going for active users, even EA is following the active user thing, because it does go into what you're saying. You could have 100 million consoles in the wild, but only 20 million people actually spending money on them and actively using them. That means you have 80 million consoles that are gathering dust in a closet, not making you money, and that's actually a big deal, which is why, I've always said Microsoft is doing just as good as PlayStation is doing with half the work involved. PlayStation's out here trying to get people to buy consoles. They're creating all this deceptive stuff on their advertising. They're trying to hammer home, like, this is how you loan game to friends, all this other stuff. And Xbox, since the beginning of the generation to now, has actually been making around the same revenue as PlayStation. And don't get me wrong, I know in the beginning of the generation they had some dips, but now that towards the end of the generation, they're making just as much money as PlayStation, and they're doing it with half the ecosystem.
Well, this is not. I mean, we're not really getting into a pissing contest here. We're not throwing no numbers around. I'm just.
No, I know. I'm not throwing numbers around. I'm just saying, like, somebody at PlayStation has to see. If I was a business guy, I would look at it like, look how much money they're making. They're making just as much money as we are, and we're out here breaking our backs, blood, sweat, and tears, and they're doing it with half the energy. Why can't we be making money like that with half the energy?
Well, I mean that is a great question, but I just truly feel like that, both companies, they have their own way about doing things. So especially the way they market, promote, the way they put the products out. Sony doesn't really do things like Xbox. Xbox doesn't really do things like Sony, which makes them unique. So I don't really worry too much about that. Maybe Sony does look at that. I think Sony just focuses on its own success. I mean, as well as with Xbox. I think that they kind of know that, hey, we're not really as behind as most people like to think we are. But I do want to get your opinion on this particular topic, Stag. I know it's something that people have been talking about all week on Twitter since the actual article came out about it. So I wanted to get your genuine opinion before we wrap things up here.
Cool, I get to say something. You mean on active users and that whole metric?
Yeah, that whole situation.
I mean, isn't that what you want at the end of the day? I mean, that's really my opinion. You want active users on your system playing games and buying shit. I mean, that's sure, selling consoles is great, but when you put out like as many limited edition consoles as they did this generation, of course you sold 100 million consoles. I mean, you've got multiple SKUs just. I got collector's editions for 360s. I got a JP Halo 360. I've got a Gears of War 360. I got a Black 360. Of course, there's PlayStation 4s out there that aren't even getting used because they had a lot of collector's editions this round. So easy to sell 100 million. Now, is it easy to get people to play on every single one of those systems? I don't think so. I think Xbox has had less limited editions and most of their players are playing on their consoles. I mean, I really wanted that Gears console and I ended up canceling my pre-order just because I was like, I already have 3 Xboxes in the house. That's another $400 or $500 that I'm just throwing away on something that's going to sit on a shelf. What's the fucking point? I think Xbox has really, granted, now we know PlayStation's got great single player games. Xbox, on the other hand, has some great engaging multiplayer games that bring you back. Even Sea of Thieves, it's a game that I don't personally like, but you come back to it. Forza is a game you come back to. Gears of War. I mean, I know for all the bitching I hear on Twitter and people about the multiplayer, it brings people back. I think you get more active users when you have more than just single players, and you're going to get more engagement. And I think that more companies are realizing that's the better metric to look at. So
Yeah.
I'm not prepared for this week's show, so I'm kind of just flying off the handle here. Not flying off the handle, but just winging it right now.
Did you see what time Stagger walked in here? He acts like he owns the place.
I do own the place. What are you talking about? I made the audio sound better. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man!
I mean, like that's one thing I've been playing my PS4 again a lot lately, just because I really want to get through these exclusives that I own. And man, dude, my disk drive is loud. The system is loud. It gets almost as loud as no, it's actually louder than my PC. And I've got a fucking beast of a rig. And I'm not trying to brag like, oh, I got a master race here, but like I got an expensive computer, and it's loud. But my PS4 is fucking louder than my PC, and it's ridiculous. So I mean, and then I sat here and I like opened my, put a couple discs in and out of the 360, and I was like, all right, well that's not quiet, but it's definitely not a like, like I get out of my PS4. So I mean, that's totally off topic, but I think definitely active users is a better metric. I mean, they don't make very much money on consoles. We know that PlayStation made money off the 4, not a lot, but that's not adding in change my name to Swag. I do have quite a bit, but you want people using your product. If they're not using your product, they're not buying games. End of story.
Much easy business 101. I don't even have a business degree. I mean, I don't even just. I'm sure.
I got a GED and I know how to figure that shit out.
Now, 1 + 1 = 2. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Really, at the end of the day, so it is interesting. And like I said before, this is something that some people have been talking about. Others have always had a different opinion. We're not shitting on that opinion. I mean, still believe what you want to believe, but at the end of the day, having those active users just means more. It is what it is at the end of the day. So, I think I'm going to take one question here because I know some people threw questions in a little earlier, and I don't want to miss anybody that I asked to actually drop a question on this. Let me go back just a little bit and see. Beezy, great question. We actually got King James got a great question. Oh, we'll take two. So King James' question was, do you guys think Microsoft will have a separate event focused on the Series X and Lockhart and use E3 for games? That's a great goddamn question. Shout out to James. Appreciate you, brother. Anybody want to take that? It's free range here.
I think they will. I mean, it just seems like something that they will want to make the big focal point for this next generation is games type of thing. So at least get some of the technical stuff and, not necessarily the boring stuff because that stuff is interesting to a lot of us, but they'll at least get a lot of those, statistics or stats and whatnot out of the way. So it's not like 15, 20, 30 minutes just talking about a box. They can spend most of that time on the games, maybe a developer interview, and then some more games and so forth. So
I think that's the plan, honestly. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're good.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not wanting to interrupt you guys, but I sent you guys a present in the DM real quick. My prediction.
I saw that, but I wasn't sure.
April 6th.
Oh, fucking goddamn it, JTech. I'm just kidding.
I know I saw that, but I wasn't sure if that. I mean, I don't know how official that is. I mean, it would make sense.
From what they said, they posted it and pulled it right back down.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
I mean, like, dude, like the fine print, the fact that it has Mixer and YouTube logos on it. I mean, like, that's a very damn good fake. We'll at least just say that somebody put some energy into that one if it is fake.
I think they're definitely. I mean, they've alluded without that what you just put in the DMs. They've alluded to like having that E3 is not going to be the whole reveal. Like they're going to do something beforehand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense to focus on games.
Is in Pacific time at the Microsoft Theater, so it matches up for everything for a reveal in California.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm not saying that. Obviously, we're pumping our brakes here because we don't know it to be official, but it would make sense if they did decide to do that. Now, to get that portion out of the way, now I don't know how long the event would be, but obviously, if they're just going to focus on the hardware side of things and treat it like almost a GDC, where hey, we're focusing on the numbers and what this thing could push out, and this is really going to be for the developers and tech heads. That's fine. If they're just going to use E3 to show off games, I am 100% okay with that. So I'm not opposed to the idea that they are thinking about doing this.
I'm not trying to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I don't.
Interrupt.
If I know, right? If I was at least in my business mind, is one thing that has destroyed the Xbox brand this generation is the media. Because I don't know why, it's just the way it worked. For some reason, the media likes to really kind of like put Xbox in the spotlight a lot. And anyways, this, in my opinion, gives them the ability to deal with the media one-on-one, and then they can deal with the fans at E3. And I feel that would be the best course of action, because they need to get the media to help them hype this for E3.
I mean, it's a grind. I mean, either way, they got a lot of flexibility. I mean, knowing Sony's not gonna be doing an event at E3, I mean, just they can do whatever they want, and I think them being aggressive and think about this too. Phil just talked about how the lady in the meeting stood up and said, "Hey, let's be bold." Otherwise that whole situation at the game with the VGAs wouldn't have happened if she hadn't stood up and said, "Hey, let's do something a little different." That's different. What you just sent me, that's different. So them jumping.
Is Jeff putting on another show? Maybe we could sneak something in.
So that's another question. I'm going to get to that too. Great fucking segue, Stag. I appreciate that. Perfect timing too. So let me make sure I got the person who asked the question. Right. Was that Beezy? That was Beezy.
Yeah.
Where's it at? Where's the question at? Go ahead. Can you read it for me? Go ahead. I'm looking for the damn.
Wait, let me see if I can find it.
Oh, Lord.
Because I remember he was asking about if Jeff Keighley would do.
Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay. So he says, do you think Jeff Keighley goes and does an event with PlayStation? That would be extremely interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if they announce an event, a separate event, and he's hosting the event. I would not be surprised at all. I would not be. Now, if you guys want to take that, we're going to wrap the show up with this one. But anybody want to talk about that?
If they have an event, he's more than likely going to host it. I mean, he's so in bed with them. It's crazy. I mean, he might not host it. I mean, they do their state of plays and stuff like that, but it feels like they're going to have a big event. I mean, they're going to have a reveal. They haven't really shown the console. They haven't released all the specs, all that stuff. I mean, why not have your biggest fucking fanboy in the media come out and do it?
Dude, if I worked for Xbox, did their unveiling on the VGA, so it's like, yeah, let's do the same. Well, not the same thing, but have the same guy that's involved with our unveiling of our console.
Dude likes money. You know he likes money, so just throw a couple million at him, and I bet you he'll come and sing your praises.
I'm glad you asked that question, BG, because that's a very Sony-like thing. Sony would definitely do something like, let's go ahead and grab Jeff and make him the spokesperson for our event. And say, hey, this is what we're doing a month before E3 or a month after, whatever.
We'll put you in another game.
Oh, stop! Here we go. God. Stop. No, but seriously though, I don't think it's so. Where are we at on this? I don't think it's out of the room. I don't think I don't think it's a stretch.
I don't think it's a stretch either.
Like
no.
But he's trying to be neutral-ish, you know what I mean? So I don't know. He might not do it because of that.
That guy in his PlayStation pajamas, you know damn well.
I don't know. Look,
I'm just saying, like, he's trying to give off an air, but then when he comes out and says, "Oh, I'm not doing E3 now," it just kind of throws that all out of the water.
Yeah, that was a little strange. The timing on that was like, really? You haven't done 25 years, and now you just kind of done with it all of a sudden.
He's dead, dude. Come on now.
I don't know about that. I don't know. That sounds like I got a prior obligation to attend. That's what that sounds like. Yeah. But either way,
my favorite company's not going to be there, so why should I be?
Oh, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. All right, we're going to wrap the show up. That's what we're going to do. We're gonna wrap this
dude, did you see what Downer did on Twitter when that came out? He straight up was like, "Hey, is it you and Kojima's anniversary?"
Oh, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And on that note, everybody, appreciate you guys coming to hang out and watching the show. If you don't come next week, we understand why. But either way, appreciate you. No. You guys are amazing, but appreciate you guys. We're gonna wrap this thing up, man. That was a great fucking question to end the show with, man. Great fucking question. We're gonna wrap this thing up though, but I appreciate you guys. Hit the like button on your way out, man. Subscribe to the channel. Retweet that link. I'm gonna put up a link later on to the full show. Once again, I do apologize for the audio, guys. I'll make sure I run a test run early next week to make sure the audio is good. I'm not entirely sure what the issue is, but we may be making some changes around here to get that figured out. But I'm gonna let my partners here on the show let everybody know where they can find them. That way you guys are aware. So we're gonna start with you, Stag. Let everybody know what's going on, buddy, and what you got cooking up.
I got nothing cooking up. No, Man, honestly, all this PlayStation talk's kind of weird because I have been playing more on my PlayStation lately because, like I said a few minutes ago, I really want to work on these exclusives, and it's been weird this week because I've been playing so much on the PlayStation that I've just been playing on my Xbox to get achievements, and I've been jumping right back over. And tonight I'm starting Detroit Becoming Human on
Nice.
stream,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that
That's what I
won
voted.
my poll this
I
week.
voted,
I was
yeah.
kind of hoping something else would win, but not everything
No.
you want always happens. I want to play the game, but you can always find me on what the hell's that platform that everyone argues on? Oh yeah, Twitter. You can find me on there as Staggerilla. You can get me on Twitch as Staggerilla, and I've been doing some Mixer, and that's Stagger. So I didn't want to change my name again.
I appreciate you, man.
I hear there's like some chatter in the chat that I should change it to Swaggerilla, but man, I don't think so.
Yeah,
so.
man.
Thanks. I'm sorry I made it late today. I didn't think I was going to make it at all because I was out watching the XFL, which, man, that league, I was really bored the first half, and then that second half was fire. So if you guys haven't caught that yet and you like football, I'm going to go ahead and make a free promotion for them and go watch that shit. It's good stuff.
Nice. Okay. But we're glad to have you on, man. Either way, glad you could sneak in for the last 15, 20 minutes of the show and give us some
Me too.
Some good shit, man. We appreciate you, man, making it here. So, Centurion, let's go ahead and throw it over to you, buddy. What you got cooked up for this week?
So I just want to point out, this is where it starts. Stagger starts playing on his PlayStation, starts talking about it 1 week.
Are we bookmarking
2 months later.
We're bookmarking this. Okay,
I'm going to be on like Sony podcast, fucking saying Xbox.
And I'm gonna have Stagger sending me freaking sales numbers in the middle of the night.
What do you mean? I already do that. What are you talking about?
All right.
Slapping you with baby powder,
Oh my god. All right. Anyways, everybody can always find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Xbox Live at Centurion1307. I also get to kick it right here with you, amazing gentlemen, every Saturday on the Shop Podcast. I'm on the TXR Podcast on Sundays and the Saltiest Gaming Podcast on Thursdays.
Appreciate it, man. Once again, this man is busy. You got to catch him. He's on a couple shows a week, so catch him there. Catch him on his channel. So hopefully we got some content coming out soon. We get some good shit going on there. But appreciate you, man, for being here consistently every single week. Thank you so much. You add so much to the show. And last but not least, Mr. Fuzz Belvedere, the smooth operator. What's going on with you, man? What you got cooking up?
Just trying to get through some more Bleeding Edge and not get my ass handed to me on that game. But yeah, you can find me on Xbox Live at Fuzzy Space Belvedere, Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere, or PSN Fuzzy_Belvedere. Well, at least for now, playing Bleeding Edge, some Division 2, Forza as usual, and I might get back to some GT Sport. But yeah, awesome talking with you guys, and man, fun week, fun times ahead with these new systems coming here soon too.
Nice. And last but not least, your boy PTK Blam across the board. Hit me up on Xbox Live at PTK Blam. Get all of the information as far as our Twitters down below. There's some other gentlemen here. Shout out to Zalker. Shout out to Jarhead. Shout out to everybody that fuck with the show. Appreciate you guys so much. Every single week, you guys come out here. You support the show. Thank you guys. You guys are fucking amazing. Appreciate it. Next show is 150, and I want to do something special for that show. So it's 150 shows. That's a lot of fucking podcasts, man. And I do greatly appreciate you guys allowing me to be around and put out that much content for you guys, and you guys actually enjoy it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are just so fucking amazing, man. We're going to keep continuing to put out content and provide you guys with this real shit every single weekend. So we'll catch you guys same place, same time next week. Hit us up. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you guys. We're out of here, everybody. Peace out.
Have a good one, guys.
Later.